Hi, everyone, and welcome to another powerful conversation with yet another powerful woman. I'm delighted to have Sara Powell with me today. She has a very enviable business that I would use and consume the products of, and I'm sure I will do at some point in the future. But I'm going to let her introduce herself to you and what she does. Hi, Sara. Thank you for joining.
Hey, Claire. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Sara Powell. I'm the founder of Impactury, and we basically offer eco-luxury wellness retreats for women executives who are seeking more purpose and less stress at work. And the way I got there, the inspiration for this business, I guess, was my own struggle with coming from corporate. I used to be in consulting and I loved the challenge of the work, but I wasn't feeling as connected to my purpose or feeling as inspired by the work. And I actually ended up taking a leave of absence from my consulting job to go and live and work in India. We had a great benefit where you could take a sabbatical for 3 months. So I went and did that. And that was honestly one of the most inspiring things that I've ever done in my life, and was just such a pivotal moment because I saw when I was there, I was working with a social enterprise that was focused on curbing human trafficking by creating economic opportunities for at-risk women. And that really helped me to see, wow, all the stuff that I'm doing for my consulting clients, I can do here in developing economies and truly change the lives of the families and the women that we were working with. And from there, I was pretty much hooked. I just loved social entrepreneurship. I had never seen, being able to apply those business principles in a setting like that. I'd only been exposed to that in the corporate world. So yeah, from there I ended up going to, I worked a little bit longer, and then I ended up moving to Spain to do my MBA. And after that, I really wanted to continue doing that meaningful work. And so I co-founded a clean water social enterprise in Ethiopia, and maybe we can talk about that a little later, but that was definitely one of the just such an impactful experience for me. And after that, I ended up going back to corporate because I needed to pay off my massive loan that I took out for my MBA. So I did that for a bit. I was a chief operating officer of a US company, but I was still living in Spain. And through all of that, I actually ended up really suffering from burnout. So I was feeling I was doing this inspiring work, but then how can I still do this and make money? And so I ended up feeling so stressed that I ended up having a lot of medical challenges where I wasn't able to work anymore. And this for me was a real wake-up call. And this was the real inspiration for creating my business. I started to see all these other women just like me who were, you put a goal in front of them, they will achieve it. They will exceed your expectations. They're extremely capable, but it's not in alignment with what they truly believe in their core values. And living out of alignment for so long is just, you can only do that for so long. So for me, I ended up having this medical crisis where I really couldn't work. I was having all these different medical challenges, but eventually I was able to discover just a more intentional way of living and getting in touch with what my body was screaming at me to pay attention to. And so from there I ended up leaving my COO job and just deciding to take time for myself. I know that's a luxury that, maybe some people can't afford, but that was something I'm so grateful that I was able to save and prioritize that. And now it's definitely not easy building a business, but it's not like it's easier, but it's different. The type of stress you have, it's not a chronic stress. It's just you know, there are times when there are deadlines and things like that. And so basically the retreats are an opportunity for women who are feeling burnout, feeling out of alignment, to enjoy just being completely pampered, taken care of, what I think every woman's dream is. And then really giving them the space to get in touch with, you know, what is it that they actually want, how are they really doing, and then letting go of those limiting beliefs that they have, and supporting them to actually achieve those dreams. So yeah, so that's kind of the Cliff Notes of where I was, my journey, and how I got here today.
That's incredible. And what I'd like to pick back up on is sort of winding the clock all the way back to when you were in consulting, and you felt that you liked the work, but there was something that wasn't right and unfulfilled. I think there's lots of women that find themselves in that situation, but it's quite hard to pinpoint exactly what feels wrong. Can you sort of explain how you knew that it was wrong at that point?
I think I remember I just didn't feel, I just knew something was off. And honestly, I didn't know what the next step was. I think that's, people think, oh, one day I'm going to wake up and have clarity on what the next thing is. But for me, I just knew that living in Washington, D.C., working at this job, living this life, like, although it was on the surface exactly what society and people told me, you know, success and happiness would look like, but I think having that, and then knowing deep down, like, and knowing intuitively, this is not it for me, I just decided, I know this isn't it, so I'm going to try something else. And so that's what, and I was, you know, applying for different jobs, and it just felt like the same thing. So I ended up just, I mean, for me, I'm a go big or go home kind of girl. So I just sold all my stuff, and I went on a trip to Spain. I felt this connection there, and I was like, let's do this. But, you know, for me, and I think a lot of people are afraid to take that leap because they think, well, if I leave my consulting job, or, you know, whatever, if I leave my corporate job, then I've blown up my whole life. And it's like, you really haven't. There are so many ways to kind of test that out. You can start talking to other people that you're kind of curious about a certain path. Or, you know, for me, I was like, I am very employable. I know I could go back to the same exact job if I wanted to. And I think reminding people of that it's not like your CV is a race just because you quit. You know, you still have your network and all of those things. So yeah, I think I just try to encourage people to just try things, and what you don't like is just as valuable as, you know, figuring out what you do like. And I think it's just part of the process.
Yeah, no, exactly. So if you got like a top tip for somebody who's feeling what you're saying, that is resonating with them, and they just need that slight little push off the starting line.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people just say, I'm not sure what my passion is. And I don't think that's true. I think that is something that people tell themselves because it actually serves them to stay small, to stay in their comfort zone. And in reality, you know, if you ask your friends, that's a great way to do it. Ask your friends and family, hey, what do you think that I really love doing? And they'll probably tell you, oh, you know, you're so into fitness, or, you know, meditation and yoga, or cooking, or music, whatever it is. It's very obvious to the, you know, your friends and your network. So I think kind of following that, maybe you volunteer. For me, I was always volunteering with different women's organizations, and I loved, even when I was volunteering, I wasn't wanting to, for example, like at this homeless shelter that I was volunteering at, I didn't want to just work in the kitchen. I was like, hey, what's your fundraising strategy? Do you want me to work on this with you? Or another one, it was like, I saw your website, you have amazing programs, but this is your message is not coming through. Do you want to work on a marketing strategy? And so I was always combining kind of that social side with business. And so for me, I just kind of followed those little breadcrumbs. And I think people just start exploring that, and more opportunities will just come your way. You'll start building your network in there, in that space. And I think people just get so worried about or caught up on how am I going to do this? Just think about why and just go do some small things. Don't worry about how it's all going to unfold, because it's going to unfold in ways you could have never conceived of. So I just just start doing something.
Yeah. I think that's really valuable, and it goes back to that sort of feeling of being very present with how you are feeling right now, because the past is kind of irrelevant. It got us to where we are, but the future, I mean, really anything is possible in the future, which is actually quite a relief when you really fully grasp that really anything is possible. I think, at least, anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think people, they have such a limited view of what is possible for them. And, it's 9 to 5 that's why creating the retreats for me was so important, because it gives you a space to just think and be creative without all the constraints of your day to day. So I think if people can find a space where they can just decompress and just get in tune with themselves, everything, it's all already inside you. You don't need, answers from someone else. It's, deep down, it's just if you take the time to slow down and listen.
Yeah. So I have an interesting, I think it's an interesting question. So obviously, setting up, the purpose of setting up a retreat is to create this environment that gives everybody else that space. How do you create that environment for yourself?
Yeah, I have to be very intentional, because I work from home, and because my company is international, I am doing calls like this where it's virtual. And so what I do, for me, I make sure to do things that are more social. So I try to make sure that I go to the gym a few times a week, or I don't even go to the gym. I go to different classes. That's something where I can really focus. I love doing Pilates, yoga, things like that. I also have a daily meditation practice. So that has been just completely life-changing for me, where it just, even when it's the most chaotic of times, I can sit down for 3 minutes and just breathe, because a lot of times you don't even realize you're clenched and just you're, white knuckling through the day. So meditation has really helped me. And I think a really big thing for me, and I think a lot of people kind of overlook the value of just fun, just playtime. Everything is so structured. So having my dog Remy, we go to the park, and he brings out a very playful, just silly side, which I think is so important. But one thing that for me, that I've been struggling with recently, and I think a lot of people with this shift in work to fully remote, is realizing I totally underestimated the value of in-person connection. And I know a lot of people that are saying this is kind of like the new pandemic, is loneliness. And I didn't realize that I was experiencing this, because I do talk to people a lot all the time, but it's virtual. And what is lost through the computer screen, I don't know exactly, but just I used to do salsa dancing classes and Spanish classes, and just things that the connection wasn't necessarily so deep, but there was that face-to-face human interaction. That's something that I make sure to prioritize as well, is just that face-to-face time.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that one, and I definitely feel the same. And I think the lifesaver for me has been combining a few things together. So running outside with one of my best friends
Yeah.
3 times a week and aiming for a goal is just ticks so many boxes all in one go. That sort of being outside and being with nature, particularly first thing in the morning, when at certain times of the year the sun is rising, other times of the year it's pitch black, but you've always got somebody that you can just, as you're running and you're side by side, so you haven't got necessarily the intensity of face-to-face communication, but they're there and you can literally talk about anything. And we really do talk about anything and everything. And at the same time, you're getting fit and working towards a goal. So I don't know where I would personally be without that ritual that I have in my life. So I definitely hear what you're saying on that one.
Yeah, and I think having something like that that's a very regular thing. It's not like, oh, I'm catching up with a friend once a month, because I think when you have that regular multiple times a week, you get more into the minutia of your life, just little things, but those little things really make a difference. And I have so many friends that I've met at the dog park. So we'll just message, hey, I'm heading to the park. Do you want to meet up? Or I'll run into friends a lot of time just on the street with the dogs. So yeah, that's been also for me just helpful to be outside doing something active and just, it's just less scheduled. And we're running or we're walking or just chatting, hanging out, walking in the park, just something like that, I think is so valuable, but can be overlooked a lot of times.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And there's that power of the pet, isn't there? There's just something about that human pet. Relationship is just really quite incredible as well. So you said about one of the biggest challenges you've had or noticed so far is that feeling of loneliness or lacking in-person contact. What are the greatest fears that you have in setting up your business, and how do you get around those?
Yeah, I think I don't really have specific fears necessarily. And I think not that I'm fearless, it's that I have overcome such difficult circumstances time and time again in my life that I have trust in myself, and I can have courage in the face of fear. So even I'm more if that thing happens, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. And I have confidence that whatever the situation is, I will be resourceful and be able to support myself, and that kind of thing. So I don't worry too much about specific things, but I mean, with this business in particular, because it's something I'm so passionate about, and there's the line between me and the business is very blurred. And so with that, it's brought up so many things for me, just my own, any kind of unresolved trauma, childhood wounds, whatever, any and all of that is coming up at different points through the business. And so, if I launch a retreat, it doesn't go well, or not that it doesn't go well, it's just I'm not getting the response that I had expected. I really need to make sure that I have support around me to remind me, hey, this is normal part of business. You're learning and you just started this, and just remembering that my worth is not connected to the success of a launch, but it does bring up just a lot of things. So I always try to tell people, if you are thinking about starting a business, don't think you're just going to quit your 9-to-5 and then start this business and it's just going to, take off and be great. I mean, maybe it will, but I think people don't realize, I tell people take at least 3 months because you're probably going to melt into a puddle right after because you're just so exhausted. And then, you know, really getting yourself in a good place. Like, what happened in corporate? How did I get to this place? Because you don't want to be acting from a place of desperation.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I think it's been really important for me to like have a coach, have my therapist, have my meditation practice, journaling, and those really keep me grounded when I am feeling really anxious and stressed about, you know, something that's coming up, a launch or things like that. And it helps me not get into this kind of like low vibe victim fear state, or even if I go there, I don't stay there for very long. So
yeah. What's your top tip for anyone that sort of is working at home and has these kind of slightly blurred boundaries between home and work life? What's your tip on putting in place boundaries to try to help have that differentiation a bit clearer?
Yeah, for me, one thing that's worked is having strict cutoff times. So I have like an alarm set on my phone. So my schedule's shifted a little. So I stop working at 9, but I don't start until kind of like 1 o'clock, 1 or 2 o'clock. So I really like a slow morning, go to a workout class, go to the park, that kind of thing. But for me, just having strict working hours, and I mean, of course, there are times when you might have to work a little later, but I really try to stick to that.
Yeah.
And get out immediately after. So like go to the park. Yeah, I think that's been really helpful. And I think just connecting with other people who are also on the entrepreneurial route, or, you know, whatever it is that you're in, even if you're in corporate, someone who's at your level that can understand the struggles that you're going with, and just reminding you you're not alone, I think is really powerful. So yeah, for me, I think setting boundaries with myself is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the way that you've stepped into having your completely own time zone that you work in, and giving yourself the morning. That sounds amazing. Yeah. So tell me, or tell us about your next retreat, where it's going to be, what people can get out of it, etc.
Yeah, so the next one will be in Nepal this November, and I'm doing a little bit of a shift. So this retreat is really going to focus on people who are in that point of career transition, and they're really asking themselves what's next. So kind of like we talked before, I know this isn't it, but I'm not sure what's next. And so this will give them an opportunity to explore what are things. So basically getting in touch with, you know, what are their values, and how they can use that as a compass to find work that is really meaningful to them. So they're living more in integrity. And whether that's in corporate or if they're starting their own business, kind of what do those next steps look like? And also helping them as far as personal transformation, just helping them to realize, okay, what are the fears that I'm having that are holding me back from making this change, you know, from quitting my job or looking for a new one, that kind of thing. What's the self-doubt? What's at the root of this, the limiting beliefs, so that they can let go of those things and really build that confidence to take that next step. So they'll have that, and it's all eco luxury, fabulous. We have the spa, and you know, you're connecting with just other really incredible women who are just like them, but all across the globe. So I think that's something that is really powerful, just being in the community of other women, realizing, like I said, you're not alone, but also, you know, you're creating these meaningful connections with them, but also being able to tap into their networks as well. So, you know, if you're into a new industry, maybe they know people, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. And Nepal has just been, for me personally, such a special place on my own healing journey. The Himalayas are just indescribable, magical. Oh my goodness, just completely awe-inspiring. So to see those up close, it's really spiritual grounding place that I think is just the perfect setting for, just relaxing, breathing, and getting in touch with who you are truly underneath all of the, all the layers of what society and your family and all these things have told you should do. In touch with yourself and connecting with other people and just a greater purpose.
Yeah. And how long does a retreat last for? Because to me, it sounds like I could just go on and be on the retreat forever. Frankly, it sounds completely ideal.
Yeah, I know. So our retreats last from 5 to 7 days, and we have one in Nepal, and then we also have one in Mallorca as well.
Amazing. And so how do you see the vision for Impactury over the next, say, 3 to 5 years? Where do you see it heading?
I think for Impactury expanding to, I also want to include a location in the Americas. So I'm thinking about Mexico. We'll see, because I know geography is something that's important to people.
Yeah.
So because we have Europe is Mallorca, and then Asia we have Nepal. So I do want to expand to one other location at least, and also I think connecting with corporate education or executive learning, because I think that's where a lot of employers are realizing the value in investing in the well-being of their employees, and how if they can get more in touch with what it is that they truly value and connect that with the company. I mean, there's just all kinds of data that shows how much more productive they are and happy. The retention is greater. So yeah, that's another area that I'm hoping to explore as well. And also, I'm just staying open. It's like, you never know what doors they're going to open, that kind of thing. But for me, honestly, if I can just, continue to live a life where I'm feeling like I am living my truth and inspiring other people to do the same. And then when I see them doing it, it inspires me. So it's just this whole really beautiful cycle of just inspiring each other.
Yeah. And I think there's something really interesting in what you say there, is that it's all very well having a vision of where you would like things to go, but to not be attached to that, which is obviously one of the principles of mindfulness or meditation and yoga, is not being attached to it, so that if something else does open up, that you can follow the path of that, if that's what feels right for you at the time. And it's actually quite exciting and liberating sometimes, not knowing where life is going to take you. It's like a little adventure on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly. I try to think of life as just, I have my goal at a high level, and I kind of use that as my North Star, my compass, but how that unfolds, I really try to stay open to opportunity, and I've always been pleasantly surprised, and also just realized, wow, I never would have imagined that this is what this would have happened. This is how it would have unfolded. So yeah, it's worked for me, that approach.
Yeah, no, exactly. So do you have, so I know you talked about living life intentionally. Do you have a specific intention or a motto or a something that you use to motivate yourself when things are feeling difficult, or just in general to keep that positivity around you?
My motto is usually, like, you only live once. That keeps me, if I'm feeling down about something, I'm feeling weighed down, anxious, that helps me kind of keep things in perspective, that like this moment in the grand scheme of things is not it's not that it's as important, it's just let it go, like just breathe through this. This one moment is not going to define your life. And so it kind of just, helps me realize we're like a little piece of sand floating around in the universe. But I think it also inspires me to just go for it. If there's, I think a lot of people, I'll wait 5 years, or I'll wait till I'm retired, or I'm just going to work here this much longer. Just again, making all of these excuses that are very rational. Yeah, this is true. But again, I think it's really underlying. It's keeping you small, and I'm here to just live life to the fullest. And I just feel like, nothing is promised. Like tomorrow is not promised. So I try to really live in the moment and just, live life to the fullest.
Yeah, that's great. So just to finish off, how can people, I'll put it in the show notes anyway, but what's the best way of finding out about your retreats and getting in touch with you?
So they can go to impactury.com. It's impact, IMPACT, and then URY.com. Or they can connect with me on LinkedIn, Sara Powell. And you can email me from there. There's, different ways on the website to connect with me. But I think on the website or through LinkedIn are the best ways.
Yeah. I love it these days, how you can actually just point people in the right direction, and it's you don't have to necessarily reel off complicated email addresses and handles, etc. So I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Sara. I wish you all the best with your Nepal retreat. I'm sure it's going to be massively popular, and can't wait to hear where you go in the Americas in years to come as well. So that sounds very exciting. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks. And thanks so much for having me. This is a great chat.
My pleasure. Thank you.